Good afternoon, and thank you so much for attending our webinar on 7.5 Secrets to Streamline Your School Bus Route Planning. My name is Nicole Martinez, and I am a sales guide with Orbit Software. Our speaker today will be Sonia Masters. She is the president of Orbit Software, and they are the makers of Bus Boss. So welcome, Sonia.
Say hello. Thank you so much for being here. I don't want to waste too much of your time in just introduction, so let's get right to it. Our goal today is to give you some practical tips and tricks on how to streamline and how to use processes that will make planning of the bus routes a lot smoother. Things that you may not be thinking about, things that you may be thinking about but not sure how you would implement them. Understand that everything that you work on with the district isn't just you. You need a lot of other people to answer to. You have a lot of other people that work with you, so the more people you can get involved in this, the better. Now, why is it so important to streamline your school bus route planning? Well, first and foremost, everyone talks about cost savings. Everyone talks about efficiencies, making sure all of the buses are being utilized to capacity. The times between bell times are as minimal as possible, but at the same time making sure that none of these cost savings and efficiency implementations affect your students' safety, making sure that they're still kept safe, make sure they're getting on the bus, getting off the bus, not falling asleep, things like that. So we want to make sure that we steer clear of anything that threatens your students' safety.
All right, so let's get to it. So tip one, let's start off by talking about our vehicle and route utilization.
Well, first of all, you need to know your fleet. You really need to know the size of your fleet. How many buses do you have? What does each vehicle accommodate? How many seats it has versus how many wheelchair positions it has? Does it accommodate any other type of special needs? So you have to definitely understand your fleet. And then come up with ways of combining certain routes to fill up more seats on the bus. So if you have private school kids versus public school kids, you may be able to get them all to school at the same time. Therefore, you can handle setting up transfers to get the private school kids to their schools on time, but at the same time you may have some special needs kids that can run with your general ed kids, as long as there isn't a specific special need that needs to be on the bus and their IEP allows it. You can combine those kinds of routes, your special needs students, along with your general students, so this way you don't have extra buses out on the road. Now, a lot of times you can think about the ride time. Senior high kids could be on the bus a little longer than the elementary school kids. You definitely want to think about who's going to be going to school first. There's big talk right now about switching the things around. Let's have your high school kids start later, have your elementary school kids start earlier. This way you can have the buses filled to capacity for the first tier, and then the hour that you have limited for your second tier doesn't hinder loading the buses because of minimizing the seats that the high school kids are taking, because they can't have 3 students to a bench. Now you're looking at 1.5 students, so you're putting 2 kids on a bench. So if you think about the different ride times, maybe you can switch where the elementary school kids can ride a little longer, the high school kids wouldn't ride as long. And then you can also try to combine routes for eliminating a bus. Now, when you're trying to eliminate a bus, it's if you have 10 elementary school kids buses running around and you're utilizing only 40 seats on that bus, well, you may be able to get rid of at least one of those where you're picking up more kids on those buses instead of having minimal kids to that bus. And then thinking about the different bus sizes, it may be more cost efficient for you to purchase another bus, because now you do have a 72 passenger bus that you can load to full capacity, where you have a bunch of little buses that are costing you way too much to maintain them, way too much on salaries for different drivers to drive them. Now you've got one bus that does the job of 3.
All right, well, those were great tips for tip number 1. So let's go into stop utilization. What should we think about when we're talking about stop utilization?
Well, that's a big one, because you want to make sure that you know exactly where you can legally place a bus stop. But at the same time, you have to think about your different school policies as far as what you can and cannot do for your bus stop. So think a lot about what are the policies in place. Are there maximum walk to stop distances for your students? Your high school kids can, walk a mile and a half, but your elementary school kids can walk a mile. That's a lot for them to walk. So you may not be able to stick to those policies, but you can definitely group the stops so that you don't have house stops all over the place. So now your bus is stopping once for 10 kids versus every 20 feet for 20 different kids. So if you can utilize group stops by taking advantage of those walk to stop distances, you could definitely get a lot more kids on the bus at a time, and therefore you can really reduce the time that they're riding on the bus. So thinking about the school policies, thinking about the placement of the stops. House stops are very expensive, so try to limit those to your special needs students. Try to have it for when you are sending out a special needs bus, that it is just for that special needs student, so it's not shared with anyone else. You're looking at your roads, your local roads, your highways, things like that. You'll also have to think about, are they hazardous? I know a lot of states right now are looking at forcing right-sided pickups. So you've got to definitely start thinking about where you can place those stops that the kids don't have to cross the street. Again, student safety, you want to think about that. You want to think about making sure that if they are crossing the street, it's with a bunch of other kids. If it is that you've shared a group stop, now you've got kids from one development crossing the street, that's fine. Now you have a bunch of kids, they're all watching out for each other. It's not just one kid quickly running across the street. So think about the right side, think about your hazards, think about grouping of the stops.
Yeah, definitely some good tips there about, bus stop safety and things like that. So definitely something they want to be taking into consideration when creating those stops. So I know we kind of talked a little bit about this already, but can you tell us a little more in detail about analyzing bell times?
Well, we definitely mentioned that a little bit already about switching maybe your high school kids to go before your elementary school kids. And that, like I said, is a really unique way of really taking advantage of the capacity of the buses. But at the same time, parents would love it. If they have a high school kid at home and an elementary school kid at home, it's great for the elementary school kid to get on the bus first. Then that way the high school kid can get on later, and the elementary school kid doesn't need somebody there to watch them. So you should be able to tier them just right so that you can get the maximum capacity within the maximum ride time, the maximum time that you want those kids on the bus. So if you can get the elementary school kids, they love getting up early. They don't mind jumping around at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and getting ready to go. So they're up and about, and they're ready to learn at that time. High school kids, I know when I was in high school, moped around, didn't feel like getting up to at least 9, 10 o'clock. So the later we can get them to school, the more absorbent they'll be of what they're learning. It'll teach them things that they can actually keep, that they can actually retain, and not spend all this time first hour in the morning teaching kids that are half asleep.
Great point about, high school kids and the difference in them and, elementary school kids. Definitely something to consider. Okay, great. So now let's go on to, synchronizing data. There's a lot to do with this. So explain how this all falls into place here.
Well, what does synchronizing data mean? That sounds a little techy. So think about your student information system. Most of the districts think of that information as the Bible. What's in your student registration is what you want to make sure you have in routing. So if the student enrolled, you want to know right away that they've enrolled. You want to know right away if they're eligible for routing. The parents are going to want to know this. You're going to want to be able to get that information the second that they move or the second that they withdraw. So your routing is up to date. So you want to try and get the data going back and forth, not only getting student information and accessible to you, but also being able to send out routing information to your student information system so that if anyone, your staff, your teachers, parents, anybody wants to go online and through one place see everything about their child. They want to see what grades they have in math, but at the same time, what bus are they coming home on today? If you've got split custody arrangements and special daycare situations and grandparents and after-school programs, you want to make sure that everyone is up to date. Everyone is totally informed of what their routing applies for that day. You want to be transparent. So you want to get from this information system what you need, but you also want to be able to send to them what they need. That way everyone is in sync. That's where the synchronization comes in. So parent notifications, you can always set up the same information then through your alert system. I know some people have like a school messenger or some type of system that whenever there's a snow delay or bus broke down or something like that, you want to know what kids are on that bus, what kids are scheduled for those routes. So if you can tailor your parent notifications to be based on just those kids that are affected, then you know there's not a lot of parents out there losing it because they think it's affected their child and find out it didn't. So it's nice to get tailored information out to the parents when they need it.
Good point. Having school-age children and getting, one of those text messages, that something happened in the whole school or something happened with a bus, it would be really great to have that tailored information being sent. So definitely agree with that one. So now we're going to go on to routing beyond home and school. What does this mean, and how does this apply?
Well, we wish it was as easy as just getting them to and from home, right? Never, ever is it that easy. There's so many other types of routing that we want to make sure we get the kids to the places where they need to be. Not only from home, not only to daycare, not only to grandma, not only to their dad, to their aunt, to whoever. They have trips, second schools that they attend. You have kids that go to high school in the morning, a tech school in the afternoon, or vice versa. They have sports trips. They're going to basketball, football. The chances of losing kids are through the roof. So we want to make sure that you're thinking about all of these different alternate types of routing that somehow, some way you're allocating buses for them. Now, streamlining these things comes into extreme importance when you're trying to make sure that no one is missed, no driver has totally forgotten about a trip, that you have a schedule somewhere, somehow, showing you everything that bus is assigned to throughout the day, and that the driver has access to all those different trips. And then it also comes into that the parents know that somehow, some way, you have either an Excel spreadsheet or a calendar somewhere, or right on your information system, or some other kind of system that tracks all of the different alternate routes that you're running for your kids.
All right. What about noonday kindergarten or kindergarten? How does that come into play with this?
Well, that's just another type of alternate route. It's you've got some districts out there that do half-day kindergarten. That's fun. They have to send out a bus to take the kids home in the afternoon, middle of the day, and then have another bus bring those kids in for the afternoon. Well, if you can have one bus go out, pick up, drop off, and pick up in the same run, a lot of savings there. So not only taking into account how many buses you're going to need, but setting up the bell times for the morning dismissal and the afternoon arrival in sync so that you can get them to and from without having to spend too much money on transporting them.
Gotcha. That really does make a lot of sense there. All right. So now, this one's kind of big. Keeping your drivers happy. I guess this goes into, hiring good drivers. So can you tell us a little bit about how we should do this and what we should be looking for?
Well, I'll tell you, this is a lot like keeping all of your employees happy. You have to really think about hiring people that want to do their job. Hiring drivers that actually want to drive. Trust me, I know they're hard to find. But once you do, you want to make sure that you keep them happy. You don't want to lose those kinds of drivers. Parents appreciate it. You will appreciate it. Your other drivers will appreciate it. It's things run a lot smoother when you have open communication with your drivers, that they're not fighting behind your back. They're not trying to, change routes without you knowing about it. So you want to keep it an open system where everybody communicates, but at the same time, make sure you offer them the training that they need. Make sure that you offer them the package, the payment. I mean, salaries are tough for drivers, but just think about how much it costs to replace a driver. You will spend a lot more training, getting that person back up and running, sending them out on spare buses, getting them all certified, doing all of their testing, than it would cost for you just to keep the drivers you have happy.
that point is something that I think is extremely, extremely important. My daughter absolutely loves her bus driver, and it really does make her day, going to school a lot better in the morning. She's excited to get on the bus, so definitely a good point about making and keeping the drivers happy. Okay, so let's hear how one of our customers is already doing this.
Well, my name is Doug Walters, and I work for the Southern York County School District, and I am the coordinator of student transportation. We identify that getting drivers can be a challenge. We need you to tell us, is this a fair rate? Because they really want our business. We've had a great relationship ever since they were laid low. I mean, they've been here for like 20, 25 years. We said, you tell us, is this going to be enough money for you to attract quality drivers, and not be, having to bring people in who may not be a good fit for our culture. So they said, yeah. So hopefully, this year, next year, we see consistency. I mean, First Student has its own training program, but we use school-wide effective behavior system in all of our elementary schools, for example. We'll pull the drivers in, we'll give them donuts, coffee, tea, whatever. We'll take an hour or two and we'll sit down and talk to them about our student manager policies. Every year we have an annual meeting right here in our administration building where we just kind of kick off the new school year, introduce new administrators, new drivers, myself, go over our expectations. We have a really strong culture here, so we expect that our drivers will fit into that and do what they need to fit into that culture. We've got a good core group that keeps coming back every year, and I think they'll be here for a long time. They get it. They've bought into our culture. They understand our expectations. They know we're going to be putting the same expectations on ourselves. And then, there's always going to be some turnover coming and going, but I'm always trying to keep more than we're losing. And we hammer that home every year. You're the first face that they see sometimes, and you're the last face that they see sometimes. So, what you do has a direct correlation with what happens in the classroom. You can, if you are grumpy and you're gruff with a kid, you say the wrong thing to them or you say it in the wrong way, you can literally set them on a path that they're going to have a horrible day. And that's the problem is we have drivers who don't do that and they do the good things, but who hears about that? So one of my big goals, and also why I'm hoping to get more data pushed in here, is if I know we've had a driver who's been with us for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, are we recognizing them as a school district? Like, can we pull them into a board meeting and say, here's a plaque, here's a whatever.
Awesome.
Thank you for being here and thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you for that wonderful information, Doug. So now I know this one's a big one here. Contracted versus owned. There's so much to this. Please, give us an example of how this works.
What's the difference between contracted versus owned? Well, yeah, there's a lot of districts out there that own their own buses and don't really like managing their routes, don't really like having to work with drivers and plan everything out, and they're constantly weighing their options on whether or not to get a contractor to take care of all this, take everything off their hands, good to go. And there are some pros and cons for that. Biggest pro is you don't have to do it yourself anymore. Biggest con, though, is they really don't take into account, really don't consider the cost of the routes as much as you do. So if you're willing to create the routes and then put them out for bid to multiple contractors, that's a definite way to do a little bit of both. You prepare the routes, but then you don't manage the drivers, you don't manage the routes. So there's a good middle ground there for you. Now, if you've got districts around you that have contractors that they use that have treated them well and haven't pushed their rates through the roof at any time, and you want to talk about shared services, maybe for your special needs students or your sports trips or your field trips, things like that, contractors really do come in handy with that too. So there are some pros and cons with it, and you really have to think about the different things that would happen if it would change. If contractors come in and they take over everything, your routes will change. Your routes will not be the same from last year to when the contractors take over, and that will send your parents in an uproar. Things will be totally different. unless you really take the time to manage them to get the routes done. And then you might as well just do them yourself and put them out for bid. So think about, how far do you want to take it? How much do you want to turn over? But then again, what's it going to cost you if you turn it over totally?
All right, so now for the 0.5 tip. We got 7 really, really great tips from Sonia, and now this one I think is really important just to throw in there when looking into, how to do all this stuff. So tell us a little bit about eliminating human oversight and how we can do that.
Well, it's tough to keep all of this in your head. It's tough to keep all of this in a spreadsheet. I've seen a really good, easy system to use with something you own, like Access. If you have somebody or you'd like a copy of an Access database that we've shared with our customers, you're welcome to have it. It kind of works with the data from your student information system so that you can get updated and import your kids into there and make sure you're not missing anything. Again, you want to make sure you have updated information. So you want some kind of software, be it Access, be it Excel, be it our program, BusBoss, but whatever you do, you can't rely on it all being in your head. Trust me, there's been, plenty of times where now you've got people retiring, you've got people that just, parents pass away, whatever, but they're no longer with the district, or some kind of political change has occurred, and now you've got, someone that took care of your routing forever is no longer there, or is totally upset with everyone and doesn't want to contribute. So you want to make sure that you have some kind of backup to that system. And when you're looking for a software system, if it is something like BusBoss, you want to make sure that system can get everything converted for you, everything brought into the system for you. So think about all of your student information, their addresses, their guardian information, their special needs, their school, their grades, just everything about that student that you rely on every day to make sure that you get them to where they need to go, along with anything about your schools, their calendars. When do they have school? When do they have early dismissal? When do they have late arrivals? When are they closed? Make sure that the system that you use accounts for all that, so that you aren't sending out drivers or you aren't scheduling routes out to go when your private schools aren't in session. Save that money. Don't send the bus out there. Why send it out when the private schools are closed? So you want a system that'll take all of your data, your current routes. If you do have your routes in Word or Excel or even handwritten, find something that'll help you get all that information loaded into the system. That way you can get things up and running a lot quicker. You try to start a system, purchase software, whether it's Streets and Trips or God knows what, and then now you got to take the time to enter all that in there to then figure out it really doesn't work the way you wanted it to work. Now you've wasted all that time entering all that information. You've got 2 systems going, your manual process and your new system that you're trying to implement, and it's just a total waste of time. So if you can find, like what we do, our cruise control implementation, we do get all of your data up front. We get it into the system in 3 to 4 weeks, so we can get out there and get you installed, and you can see it right then and there. All your kids in there, all your routes in there, all the kids assigned to the routes, all your kids are located, so you know exactly where all of your students live, and all your schools are located, and even your zones. If you've got your boundaries for your attendance zones and your rider zones, we can get all those in there. So just think about the implementation process. Make sure you get something that really gets things going into the system for you a lot quicker and more efficient. Also, you want to look at your benchmarks. I know they've talked a lot about your KPIs, your key performance indicators. Yeah, figure those out. There's lots of benchmark reports out there. I have one available now for last year's numbers that I can give to you. We can do a consult for you to see, 10 tips in 10 minutes to just help you go through a couple of your specific needs. But get those benchmarks in. Know what other districts of your same size, of your same revenue, of your same land. Are you rural? Are you urban? And compare. How are you doing? How do you compare? And then use the system after you implement it to figure out what it saved for you. What did it change? Really have a full and complete look at how you're currently running versus how that system affected your processes. Streamline everything as much as possible.
My name's Shannon Dick. I am secretary at West Middlesex Area School District. Prior to Bus Boss, we used spreadsheets and did things by hand. Now it's made our process much more convenient and time efficient. The features of Bus Boss that I think we like the best are the information system where we can see the licensing updates for the drivers and the whole automated process. By implementing Bus Boss, we were able to eliminate the spreadsheets and the manual time spent on it and automating the whole process.
Great. Those were such great tips, Sonia. Thank you so much. So that was our 7.5 tips on streamlining your bus route planning. Did you have anything else to add or anything else that you wanted to tell us, Sonia?
Well, if you definitely want to sign up for a demo or anything like that, just give us a call. We're available toll free. We're available on our website, busboss.com. So we're available through social media. Any way that you want to, reach out to us. There's always white papers that we put out there. Our blogs are very informative. We have a newsletter. So just keep in touch. If there's anything that you need from us, let us know. Email us, call us, post us, whatever you like.
Great. Thank you. All right, everyone. Well, now we're going to take some questions. So if you want to send them over to us, we'll try to answer as many as we can. And if not, we'll definitely get back to you after the webinar. Thank you.